I I do I
Ouè, kounya, telman fache, bren mwen pa travay.
we could do it baby simple and plain. Cause this love is a short thing. We could burn that. Hey, how's it going? How's life? My name is Sophia. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am going to be doing a nebula reading vlog situation. A couple of months ago, I thought it would be fun to do a secret TBR project reading all of the nominees for the Nebula Awards. And it was definitely an experience. I will say that. But without spoiling too much, let's get straight into the video. The very first book I have to talk about is going to be Babel by R.F. Kuang. In this story, we are following our main character, Robin, who is an orphan in China. One day, a colonizer comes to take Robin from China to England, where he studies linguistics. He's studying linguistics in order to get into the prestigious Oxford Academy, and the story goes from there. Babel is a story that explores difficult themes such as imperialism, colonialism, racism, microaggressions, racism in academia, and so much more. I love the characters. Victoire was my personal favorite character, and I'm not saying that just because she was Haitian, okay? She's a very good, well-written character, and we love her in this household, okay? But if you want my more in-depth thoughts on Babel, I actually did a video talking about it. It was my best books of 2022, so I will leave that video linked up above as well as down below for you guys to check out if you are interested. I will say Babel is a 5-star read, and if you haven't read it yet, you definitely should. That book is a definition of perfection. Anybody else who has a differing opinion, respectfully, you're wrong. Why am I like this? The very first book I actually read for this reading vlog is going to be Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. In this story, we are following our main character, Viv, who is an orc, but she used to be a mercenary, and she is now retired to this little town to open up a coffee shop. And the story goes from there. The very first book I decided to read for this reading vlog is going to be Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is also one of the books on my yearly TBR video that I'll leave linked up above or down below if you're interested in checking that out. Normally, I don't update this early on in my reading vlogs. However, I came here to say that low-key, kind of, I'm bored. This is a book that has been getting so much hype on Twitter and apparently Book Talk as well, and so I was feeling the FOMO, and this secret TBR video is the perfect excuse for me to read this book, and I am struggling. I am struggling to get through this because I am bored out of my mind. Hopefully it gets better, but we shall see. I will update you guys once I get to the 50% mark. and hopefully I start enjoying it a bit more by then. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this update. I am back a century later with an update for Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Honestly, I'm low-key disappointed because this book has received so much hype. So much freaking hype, and so I was intrigued. I was excited to pick this up, and this video was the perfect excuse for me to read it. And unfortunately, I'm just not vibing with it. There is basically no plot. Like, the first 50% of this book has absolutely zero plot. But if you like the characters and if you are a character-driven reader, then this might not be such a big deal for you. However, for me personally, I'm not vibing with the characters. Viv is aight. She's just aight to me. I do like Tandri, the succubus. I like her. And then there is a little mouse, little baby, Thimble. Thimble is cute. Thimble is precious. But besides those two, don't really care about the characters. And because I don't like the characters, and because this plot is so slow, so freaking slow, it's really taking away from my enjoyment. The first 25% of this book is just Viv scouting out locations and building the coffee shop. Like, that is it. For 25% of this book, that is all she's doing, building her coffee shop. The next 25% of this book is basically the early stages of the coffee shop. So bringing in customer, building a clientele, updating the menu and things like that. And if you're a person who's into that, then you might like this. If you like Viv as a character, you'll like this a lot more than I did. You know what this is reminding me of? It's reminding me of A Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. So if you liked one, I feel like you'll like the other. Both of these books are just vibes. Even though one is a fantasy, the other one is a sci-fi, they're just vibes. And if you like the characters in both books, then you'll enjoy your time reading both books. But because I didn't like the characters and because there was nothing going on, it just wasn't for me. But yeah, when will I finish this book? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I'll even finish it. Honestly, I might DNF. We shall see. Alrighty, so I have finally finished Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Out of all of the books I read for this project, this has taken me the longest. It has taken me nearly a month to read this book, which is insane because it's a novella. Like, this is hella short. The entire time I was reading this, I was bored out of my mind. There was absolutely nothing happening in this story. And personally, I am not a plot-driven reader. As long as the characters and the character dynamics and the themes that the story explores, as long as those aspects of a story are good, 9 times out of 10, I will enjoy this. But this had damn near zero substance to it at all. Not only was there no plot, but I felt like the characters weren't as nuanced or as well developed as I would have liked. The character dynamics felt very flat to me. We only saw them at work, and that's the thing. Like, this is just about Viv working at the coffee shop. There's literally nothing else to this. And if the characters were a bit more fleshed out and if the dynamics were a bit stronger, then maybe I would have enjoyed this. And you know, this is supposed to be a cozy fantasy, so like, I'm not gonna fault it for not exploring incredibly in-depth and complex themes. Like, that's fine. But this literally had nothing to it. And it's one of those stories where I genuinely do not understand the hype. Sometimes I'll read a book, I won't like it, but there are certain aspects where I'm just like, you know what, even though this story wasn't for me, I can understand why other people like it. But for this, I do not understand. Like, if you've read this book and if you've loved this book, like, please explain to me why you like this book so much. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so disappointed, another reason why I'm so disappointed was because, like, I feel betrayed. I feel bamboozled. Because, like, even when it comes to people I trust, their reviews on books, you know what this is reminding me of? Tangent. But I remember when Tammy read Ruin of Kings and we were all hyping it up. And then Tammy read that book and she was just like, I feel bamboozled because I don't understand why everybody likes this book. Like, including the people I trust.
I really wanted to love this book. And, like, as I mentioned, I have a lot of friends who love this book, people whose tastes align with mine that really love this book, and I really was expecting this to be a 4 stars or higher. So I really think this is a book where I'm like, I really just don't get it. I don't get it. I've been bamboozled.
And that is how I feel about Legends and Lattes. Like, even the people whom I trust their reviews, we have similar taste in books, they were ranting and raving about this, so like I thought that I would love this, and then I picked it up. And I feel so betrayed right now. But yeah. This is just not for me. Like, I'm just not the target demographic. Like, there's really nothing about this book that I liked, unfortunately. The writing style was very simplistic, which made it easy to read, but because I was so disengaged with the story, it made it harder to read. Like, if that makes sense. The writing style made it easy, but the plot and lack of character development made it difficult. Yeah. If I had to give this a rating, I would give it a 1, maybe a 1.5 stars if I'm being generous. This is going to be one of my worst books of this year so far. Like, I am so disappointed. I'm upset. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it took me a month to read this. An entire month to read a tiny little novella. And the thing is, the writing, I don't know if you can see that, but like the writing and the margins are pretty big. So yeah, that is going to be it for this update. Like, I'm so angry right now. I have to smile through the pain. I'm smiling through the pain. But yeah, that's it for this update. I can't believe I actually finished this book, to be honest. The next book I read for this reading vlog is going to be Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb Quartet. Now, because this is a 3rd book in a series, there really isn't much I can say without spoiling it. But broad synopsis, we are following our main character, Nona, who has some type of memory issues. And that is all I can say without spoiling anything that happens in the series so far. I will say this book is just as chaotic, just as sapphic, just as fun as the first 2 books. Tamsin Muir, the way her brain functions, fascinating. Fascinating to say the least. Alrighty, first of all, don't mind my nails. I'm currently in the process of doing them. Hopefully I shall be done by tomorrow. But it is currently 2 o'clock in the morning and I am 75% of the way through Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I tried to update this vlog at the halfway mark, but both of my batteries were dead, so I'm updating you guys right now. This is the third book in the Locked Tomb Quartet, and honestly there really isn't much I can say without spoiling it, except for the fact that Tamsin Muir as an author is just pure chaos. Like, everything about her and the books she writes is literally just pure chaos and confusion. And for me personally, it's a fun time. The interesting thing about this trilogy so far is that you cannot predict what is going to happen. I have read a few fantasies in my lifetime, and there are certain tropes and plot points and character archetypes that are very common within the genre. And Tamsin Muir literally says, fuck it. I am just gonna do whatever I want, whenever I want, and if you don't like it, that's your business. Which is interesting. It makes for a very interesting reading experience. One thing I will say is that I am enjoying the characters and their dynamics. I feel like Tamsin Muir is really good at giving her characters very distinct personalities. Without giving any spoilers, each book is following a different type of character, right? And we are also introduced in each book to a vast variety of different characters, and it's so interesting seeing their relationship develop from book to book and seeing how their dynamics evolve. And I think Tamsin Muir is really good at doing that. If I had to describe this trilogy so far, I would describe it as a chaotic lesbian mystery sci-fi story that is also hella confusing and can be a bit convoluted at times. So like, if that sounds like your vibe, you would probably love this book. The interesting thing about this trilogy so far is I feel like there are people who don't like it, but the people who do enjoy this series, they love it. Like, they love it 10 toes down, which is very interesting to me. I should go to sleep, but I've messed up my sleep schedule. And so I'm probably going to stay up until 3, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning trying to finish this book, but we shall see. I will be back with an update once I finish the book. Okay, so it is officially the next day, and I have finally finished reading Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. And as I stated before in my previous clip, this book was hella confusing. And I feel like I say this every single time I read a Tamsin Muir book, that I am just here for the chaotic vibes and the lesbians. Like, that is literally the only reason why I'm reading this series at this point. Also, I really like the characters. They are my favorite part of the story. I feel like Tamsin Muir does a really good job at writing big, bold, strong personalities, and Nona the Ninth was no different. However, Nona as a character she's very sweet. She's very kind and caring, and also very naive, which is very different from the types of characters we're following in the previous books. And that was a breath of fresh air to me. I didn't know what I was expecting, particularly when it came to the world building. Where I thought the story was gonna go, it went in a completely different direction, and we get some flashback sequences that partially explain why the world is, or why the universe is the way it is within this book. And I found that very fascinating and interesting. People suck is basically that's basically the gist of the story. People suck, and now other people have to fix the fuckery, foolishness, and nonsense of the previous generation, which is a very story of my life, I'm not gonna lie. I have noticed a particular pattern when it comes to the plot within this quartet. So the story will start off very slow and hella confusing, and you have no idea what's going on. Tamsin Muir just throws you into the story, and it's basically sink or swim. But as the story starts picking up momentum, things start slowly but surely clicking into place, and then shit hits the fan, and then that's when everything clicks. Personally, I don't mind it. As I stated before, I am just here for the chaos and vibes. So for me personally, it's entertaining. But if you are the type of reader who does not like chaos and confusion, if you're the type of reader that likes to have your hand held throughout the world building process, I don't know if this series is going to be for you. Overall, this is a fun time. I will say this is probably my least favorite in the series so far. Harrow being my favorite, and then Gideon is a close second. But even then, it was still good. It was still enjoyable. I gave this a 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4 stars on Goodreads. I cannot wait for the finale, but apparently the finale does not come out until next year, which is blasphemous to me, but what can you do? The next book I read for this reading vlog is going to be Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. In this story, we are following our main character, Mara, who is a princess and is the youngest sibling of 2 sisters. Her older sister dies under mysterious circumstances, and as a result, her second oldest sister is forced to marry the prince. Mara, she's feeling suspicious about the prince. She don't like him, and as a result, she decides to go on a quest to murder him. And the story goes from there. Alrighty, so I am here with my final update for Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and I think I'm gonna settle somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3 stars. I had a good time. It was a fun time. I enjoyed the story, but for me personally, this really isn't something that's gonna stick with me in the long run. In terms of the characters, I enjoyed them for the most part. They were a fun cast of characters. My favorites were the witch lady and Agnes. Like, those 2 characters were my favorite. I loved them. I loved their vibes. But in terms of the other characters, they really didn't stick out to me, and I didn't really care for them. I felt like Mara as a character didn't really set out to accomplish what she was supposed to accomplish. And the reason I say that is because in the beginning, Mara does some stuff, but like as the story progresses, she starts heavily relying on the people around her instead of doing what she set out to do on her own, if that makes sense. And that wouldn't be a problem for me if this was more of an ensemble cast instead of Mara being the main character. I feel like that's a nitpicky critique, but it is a critique that I have. I did enjoy the fairy tale vibes. I thought they were a fun and cute time. I don't often read stories that have a fairy tale vibe, so this was very fresh and refreshing to me. Another critique I have personally is that the ending felt a bit anticlimactic to me, and mostly because of Mara. She really didn't do much. She really didn't do anything. And so that made the story feel a bit unsatisfying to me. But overall, this is fun. This is a very quick and easy read. It's entertaining, and I would still recommend if you're interested in picking it up. Also, I wasn't rooting for the romance. The romance, it wasn't slow burn enough for me. It wasn't angsty enough for me. When I read a romance that's supposed to be slow burn, I want it to feel borderline painful, and this wasn't that. As a matter of fact, I felt like the two characters really didn't have much chemistry at all. Another thing I did appreciate was Mara's age. I am getting older. And as a result, I don't often see characters around my age specifically. And so it was entertaining to follow a character in her early 30s. Well, yeah. But that is all for this update. Bye. The next book I read for this reading vlog is going to be Spear by Nicola Griffith. In this story, we are following our main character, Parator, who lives with her mother in isolation away from society. Duh. That's what isolation means. The fuck? But as Parator gets older, she becomes more curious about the outside world, particularly humans. And one day she decides to leave home in order to become a knight for the king, and the story goes from there. I have heard this described as a gender-bent reimagining of Percival and the Holy Grail. Do with that information what you may.
Alrighty, so I am here with an update for Spear by Nicola Griffith. I am doing this update on my phone because my battery died. Both of my batteries died. And I've been trying to film this update forever. Bagala fait me fâcher. Parce que comment faire? M'a essayé faire mon update. La fini batterie moi. Gen audacité pour mourir sur moi. Qui s'en souvient ça fait? Qui s'en souvient? Bagala fait me fâcher, oui. So me décide de faire mon update ça sur téléphone moi, ok? Pas un problème. Excuse me for the rant. But I am here with an update for Spear by Nicola Griffith. And honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't think that this is for me. I don't think I'm the target audience. I think one of the biggest issues I had with the story is the main character. The main character felt like a Mary Sue character, and those are my least favorite types of character. I find that those characters are very static, and I'm not a big fan of static characters. I like dynamic characters. I like seeing my characters struggle, okay? I like seeing them struggle and then come out the other side stronger, you know what I'm saying? But because everything came so easy for the main character, there was no tension. There was no rooting for the character to get better because she was automatically good at everything she did. And then they try to explain it away in the story. However, even with the explanation, I was still like she's still a Mary Sue. Like, give me something, give me some dynamic. You know what I'm saying? And so that was one strike against the book. Another strike against the book is that in this particular chapter, this character, and this has to deal with the character being a Mary Sue, but this character has to deal with a villain, an adversary, if you will. And then this adversary is like pumped up to be like the big bad, right? However, there is a deus ex machina within the story that makes the character win against their adversary. And if you know anything about storytelling, literary, film, then you probably know what a deus ex machina is. And another strike against the book was the fact that the climax felt anticlimactic. You get this build up and it's over within a second. A second. And that was kind of annoying. And so because of all of the things that I mentioned, I was not invested. I was not emotionally attached to the story, nor was I attached to any of the characters. As a matter of fact, low-key, I was kind of bored. The only good thing about this book is the fact that it's sapphic. That's it. And even then, the romance was kind of insta-lovey for me. They meet and they have like this magical connection, and then boom, they're in love. And I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe it's the masochist in me, but I love a slow burn. I love angst. I love drama. Like, I want my romance to be slow burn, that it gives me physical pain. And this was not it. Granted, this is a novella. It's a fairly short story, so maybe the author really couldn't dedicate as many time to the romance. And I feel like that is the issue. Because this is such a short story, we don't get to develop the romance. We don't get to fully develop the characters. We don't get to fully develop the plot. And so this just felt like a lackluster read to me. Okay. What else? I will say that the writing style is beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love it. I was impressed. It's very atmospheric, very magical, but the author does a really, really good job at describing nature in detail, and that was the best part of the story. Unfortunately for me, it was not enough to save the story for me. But yeah, that is it for this raggedy update. I will be back with another update maybe in a week, maybe a month from now. Who knows?
The final book I read for this reading vlog is going to be The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Nyler. In this story, we are following four main characters: a doctor scientist situation, an AI robot situation, a slave on a boating ship situation, and a hacker situation. Okay, don't ask me what their names are because I have completely forgotten. Oops.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
This is a story that explores themes of artificial intelligence as well as evolutionary theory. The doctor person situation. She is studying the evolution of octopuses and trying to figure out if they are as intelligent or as sentient as humans. And that is basically the gist of the story. Alrighty, so hey, I am here with my update for The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Nyler. I actually finished this a couple weeks ago and I just haven't updated this vlog in several weeks simply because the more books I read for this vlog, the more I felt my soul slowly drain from my body. For The Mountain in the Sea, we're following a bunch of characters. One is a slave on a ship. The other is a scientist who is studying artificial intelligence. And another is a hacker who is hired by a secret government agency to hack this AI person human thingy situation. And you're basically following their perspectives, and then towards the end all of their perspectives come together and collide in the climax. Personally, I did not give a fuck about these characters. I was bored following their perspectives. These characters were not dynamic. They had nothing about them that was interesting, that kept me invested in their character arc. Also, speaking of like the climax where all of their perspectives come together, fell flat for me. Fell flat, was completely unengaged, was completely uninterested, was completely bored, was completely aggravated by the lack of whatever the fuck it was I was looking for. No ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am. I'm sorry. So the themes were interesting, but the way that the themes were explored, uninteresting. In this story, as I said before, you're exploring this idea of artificial intelligence, what makes a person human, and things like that. And I feel like Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky did a much better job of that. That story also explores evolutionary theory of octopuses. However, it was more fun. It was more engaging. I actually liked the characters. Like, Children of Ruin is everything The Mountain in the Sea will never be. Like, Children of Ruin, she is that girl. She is that bitch. She is serving cunt. The Mountain in the Sea, who is she? She don't go here, okay? I give up. I give up. That is going to be it for this update because I cannot be bothered. I cannot be bothered. I just can't. So I give up. I gave this book a 1 out of 5 stars because that is what it deserves. I am just glad that I am done with this video. The Nebula Awards, they fucked me over. They screwed me over because what were these choices? Besides Nona and Babel, what were these choices? That is going to be it for this passionate update. Bye. That is going to be it for this video. Feel free to comment down below and let me know what you guys thought of this year's Nebula Awards. If you've reached the end of the video, feel free to comment a rain cloud emoji. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you guys soon with another video. And until then, I will see you soon. Bye. Bye.